Okay, so I apparently forgot to record a segment for this, but one of the animated videos that I had was my New Year's special, which was unfortunately released on January 10th, 2017. Yes, I know I was late, forgive me, please. Anyway, this cartoon I think is pretty passable when it comes to how my animations have evolved. I mean, the animation, like I've said before, is pretty alright. I mean, especially for 2017s. This was around the same time that SotD would premiere, so I believe that this cartoon actually has a lot going for it, especially in terms of, I guess you could say, the animation as well as the overall expressions that the characters have. Because in this case, I learned that expressions can carry a lot in terms of conveying emotions to the audience. And so I feel like as my cartoons are getting better and better, I feel like the expressions reflect this, because look at the expressions here, they actually look pretty decent. Another thing worth mentioning is that the eyebrows have a big emphasis in my cartoons, mainly due to the fact that I learned that eyebrows can convey a lot of expressions, especially with most of the face. So it's those two elements combined that create this kind of identity or personality for the character that you're trying to convey to the audience. It shows their personality, what they're thinking, as well as it represents, I guess you could say, gradual change throughout the personality of a character. So this cartoon, along with my future ones that I'll talk about in this video, actually have a lot to do with the expressions, and boy howdy do those expressions really stand out. But since it's just a New Year's special, let's just keep going forward. Now we reach probably, no offense to myself, but episode 2 of Secrets of the Dragon, A Mystery Revealed. And it was released on July 15th, 2018. And fun fact, I actually forgot to make this, because one of my subscribers, I don't really remember his name anymore, but he made a comment that said, "Hey, where's the next episode of SotD?" And next thing you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to make that episode. So I spent around 4 months creating all the backgrounds, and then I spent 2 weeks animating, and I think that this has one of the best production times of all my cartoons of this caliber. Granted, the animation is slow and the story is, to me at least, it's lackluster, but the expressions and the secrets being revealed is actually pretty decent. And I think that this episode holds up today. I mean, despite its flaws that I've mentioned before, the whole idea here is that it takes place 1 week after the events of the first episode, so there's a little bit of continuity for you there. So, in my opinion, it's the expressions here that matter the most, as well as the tension, in which there's some tension, although it's, like I said, it's lackluster. But let's talk about all the bad stuff before I go on to the good stuff. So the bad includes the animation, the story, and the timing. So there's that. The good stuff is there's continuity with the story. The characters see gradual, I guess, like, personality changes, which adds a lot of depth to the characters, as well as Iskrilla is trying to reveal herself to me. The only problem is that everyone in Ericland doesn't want her there for some reason, which you'll find out in the future episodes. And this just creates a whole new dynamic between me and Iskrilla and all my other characters. And this is also one of the first times that we see Ericland at night. And let me tell you, this is properly Ericland at night. And don't worry, it's not going to look like this for much longer, because I intend on refining some of my nighttime scenes, because in my opinion, the way that I draw the night sky, it just looks like a really cloudy day. It doesn't look like it's nighttime at all, apart from the moon and the stars being shown off. So I intend on fixing that in episode 4, so prepare yourself for that. As you can see, the shading, once again, it's decent. The animation is slow, but it gets better, as well as the talking is sort of off, in my opinion. I mean, there's this one segment here where I say, what could this mean? it actually stands out because this is one of the best talking scenes in this whole thing. And let's see. Granted, animation is slow, but still. The story, I think, got deeper around this part, and I think I was able to deliver to what my subscribers were looking for. And hopefully this episode, hopefully people will come back to this episode. I mean, I certainly don't, but maybe other people will. So, moving on. Oh, now this is what I'm excited for. Secrets of the Dragon Episode 3. June 4th, 2019. This cartoon, oh boy, this cartoon has it all. It's got great storytelling, great visuals. Although the animation is still slow, it still manages to tell an amazing story that I think a lot of people like. The first episode of SotD, which at the time I'm recording this video, has 700 views. Meanwhile, episode 3 has 645, so both episode 1 and 3 are by far the best in the series. Forget about episode 2. I don't really like it that much anymore. I'm not sure why, but forget about that. This cartoon has some of the best animation that I've been able to do at that time. It may be slow, but I know for a fact that people learn the best when it's slow. This cartoon has some of the best storytelling that I was able to put together, and hopefully episode 4 will do that very same thing. The colors are amazing, the expressions are great, the tone is, and pacing I guess are perfect, but there's one thing about this episode that I absolutely hate. It's the song, I'm Here Now. For those of you who have not seen the episode, thank goodness, and when I mention and when you get a disclaimer on the screen that says Eric's terrible singing incoming, just skip over this song because it is the worst piece of music that I have ever made, as it is the only piece of music I've ever made. I can't play the piano, I can't sing. Yeah, two combinations that are deadly when put together. Regardless of the terrible song, the animation and the quality of the storytelling here is some of the best. You actually see Eric, the character, or in this case I'm just going to say Eric the Wolf, you actually see that Eric the Wolf has a genuine feeling for Skrilla in this position. Skrilla is hurt. She doesn't have a family. She doesn't have a place to live. She lives in a cave, for crying out loud. Anytime someone sees her or gets near her, they go, ah, help, run! Everyone is afraid of Skrilla for her appearance, and all she wants is a friend. Meanwhile, she tried to kill Eric the Wolf, or in this case myself, she tried to kill me twice, but that was because of another reason that I'll touch on later in the series. But Skrilla and I have a genuine relationship in this episode. You actually see that Eric the Wolf has trust issues in the beginning. Like, I hesitate when she says, well, come on, I want to show you something. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. When, if you remember the first episode, she tried to bite my tail off? Yeah. And then in the second episode, when I thought she was trying to kill me, but turns out no, she was trying to talk to me. But she could have just said, I need to tell you something. This episode starts off with me hesitating to do stuff with her, and then midway through the episode, I actually get a sense of what she's going through, and my feelings toward her change. It's incredible storytelling that I just came up with, and I slapped it together over the span of about 10 months. This episode took me 10 months to make. Maybe like 8 months to draw out everything, and then an extra 2 months to put it all together and animate it. So this cartoon is probably my magnum opus. Maybe. I have no idea. It's too early to say. Regardless of that fact, this was the best cartoon that I put out at that time, and I think it paved the way for new cartoons to follow. I love the animation, although it's slow, but still. I mean, what do you expect from a cartoons? It's all slow at this time. But the colors are great, the storytelling is great, the emotions oh my goodness, the emotions are amazing here. Like, look at this. Those emotions are amazing. And the whole growth that you feel between me and Skrilla is genuine here. Although I still think that there could be some more growth later on, so I'm gonna touch on that later. But this cartoon is probably the best one that I've put out so far. And that ending, holy cow, that ending is amazing. The whole flight scene with me and Skrilla flying over Ericland, that frame that shows Ericland took me 3 days to draw and color out. It is the most complicated drawing that I've ever done. And granted, you only see it for about 7 seconds. But regardless of that fact, this cartoon is one of my best. Alright, the last 2 episodes that I can cover, because unfortunately that's all the cartoons that I have at this current moment. But we now reach 2020, and this was released on January 6th. Emergency Presents, an Eric Ramirez late Christmas special. I mean, what do you expect? Most of my cartoons are late usually. That's because it's just one person working on them. You gotta remember, companies like Disney and Pixar, they usually have hundreds, no, thousands of people working on these cartoons and animated features. For me, no, it's just one person, and that's me. So this cartoon definitely has some flaws here and there. The animation is slow in some parts, but granted, this was the beginning of a new chapter for my cartoons. I would definitely say that the animation here definitely ramps up in speed and quality. For starters, the shading is great, the expressions are amazing, and actually this was the first time that I ever stopped using Movie Maker for my cartoons. I use a different program, but I'm still trying to figure out how to use this new program for my cartoons, so keep that in mind, please. This cartoon has some great quality animation that I think definitely is leagues above all the previous cartoons that I've done that we've already seen in this video. And another thing worth mentioning is that this was also one of the first times that I layered things. For example, for this scene here where the note from Santa falls through the chimney and lands in the fireplace, that was actually because I cut a slit in the paper background here, and I slid this little piece of paper one frame at a time through this slit to make it seem like it fell through the chimney. This is a common practice that I use in my cartoons now. If there's a layer effect, then this is usually how I do it. The background is usually split into 2 or 3 different sections, and one piece is usually animated faster or in a different way on top of a different layer. So this is how scenes like Skrilla running in episode 3 of Secrets of the Dragon, or how this scene in Emergency Presence actually works. It's complicated, but once you understand it, it actually becomes a little bit easier to figure out. So, this cartoon, great animation, great expressions, and the humor is alright. Not exactly the best, but it's alright. Anyway, moving on to my final cartoon. Now we reach probably the best animated cartoon that I have so far. I mean, if I'm comparing it to my other ones, I would say that episode 3 of SotD is the best by far, but I'd say that Firework Fail is a close second. And this one was released on November 21st, 2020, and it's dedicated to my grandpa. And let's see, this one was a Veterans Day special. So this cartoon has probably the most amount of awesome animation that I could possibly give, or comprehend mentally. So this cartoon takes place on Veterans Day, and I got a shipment of fireworks from this new company that I created called Failproof Incorporated. It's mine now. You can't use it. You can't use that name. It's mine. So Failproof is kind of it's got a reputation for creating faulty products, Think back to Looney Tunes or something like that. So in this case, I got an industrial-sized shipment of fireworks. All of them go off as normal, but one single firework. One single firework goes off and it destroys the roof of the Hamilton Tower, a monument to Ericland, and one of the oldest creations that I've made, a 200-year-old clock tower, and I blew the roof off of it by mistake. And guess who's the moron who's got to pay for it? Me. I'll pay for it.
Yeah, you better pay for it.
Now, of course, the animation here is superb. Even I was surprised at how smooth the animation was when I was putting this thing together. Alex, my friend, tells me the animation is so smooth. He's never seen such smooth animation before. And just wait until episode 4 of SotD comes around. So this cartoon has a lot of stuff going on. The shading is incredible, the animation is superb, the expressions are great, and this was also the first time that I used this new website that I found, where this scene here where the fireworks are going off, the screen is changing color, and this, my friend Alex helped me out with this, and I'm actually going to be using this same website for other cartoons that need this kind of stuff. And so this was another game changer. And also, I love how I don't really understand this, but Handy looks dead. He looks dead in this cartoon. I'm not sure why. It's probably the way that I drew him, but a lot of people are saying, why is he dead looking? He's not. He's laying on the ground, staring up at the sky, waiting for the fireworks. And so he doesn't want to sit down. So in this case, this cartoon is probably the best in terms of animation quality, but in story it's pretty decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And the thing here is that while this cartoon is great, I still think that it has some flaws. For starters, my friend Alex tells me that some of the audio is really quiet for some reason in some parts. I guess I was trying to simulate distance or something. And also some of the explosion of the clock tower's roof, that was amazing. And if you look, the bell actually flies off and it's spinning through the air as it's doing so. And if you look closely, it actually has a crack on it that I actually made to look like the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell has a crack on it, and in this case, the bell from the Handyville clock tower that spins through the air has that same crack design. Now, I know that that's not really something worth mentioning, but it's there just in case there's people out there like me who love for the small details in cartoons. So anyway, this cartoon is amazing, and it paved the way for new cartoons after. Imagine if all my cartoons had this same style and the same quality. They would be amazing, and I do intend on keeping this same style going. With each new cartoon, there's always something new in it. You just look for it, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it eventually. Eventually you'll find it. But anyway, this cartoon is incredible in my opinion. I love it to pieces, and it's the one that I usually show whenever someone sees one of my cartoons for the first time. I don't usually show them my older stuff because it's old and it's not really worth showing, especially my first ever cartoon. And with that concludes the evolution and history of my animated cartoons. Well, so far. I mean, there's so many more cartoons I have planned. The only problem is that I don't really have the technology and resources available to make them every so often. But I do have an update on my cartoons coming soon, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching me talk about my cartoons for 2 videos straight. It took me a while to get this video out because I had to use this new software that I'm using to make my videos. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but I was able to figure it out later on, and now I actually have a feel for it, so that's a good thing. Going back and watching all of my older cartoons has been a real delight for me, especially because it kind of gives me an idea about where I came from all those years ago when I started making my cartoons. Just think, we went from this piece of garbage to this masterpiece. The difference is night and day, and for animation nerds like myself, it really shows the difference between an older style and a new style. And hopefully my cartoons will get better with time. I mean, who knows, maybe Firework Fail will be outdated at some point in my life, I'm not really sure. But that's a story for another day. But for now, I'm gonna get back to working on SotD. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, why don't you watch all of my animated videos? Go ahead and do it, I dare you. I dare you to watch my animations all over again. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye!